Hey, is this Charlie?
Yeah, this is me.
Hey, it's Garrett with the Smoky Mountain News. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing good, Garrett. How are you doing?
Good. I'm glad I could get you on the phone. I met you at the Bristol show and told you I wanted to interview you for the Asheville show.
Yeah, that was good to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Well, I guess just to start, you write a lot of melodies about insecurities and day-to-day sadness of everyday human beings, and I was wondering, what do you see when you look out the world these days? Are you optimistic?
Wow. You're not kidding. We're just getting right into it. Yeah, I guess I'm cautiously optimistic. I started kind of just openly talking about, my own, issues with depression and anxiety and problems like that. And since then, I've had a lot of people, get in touch with me and talk to me and tell me about their own experiences or offer me support in mine. And, I think, when you look kind of, out the window, if the window means like looking at the world through the filter of like news or Facebook or something like that, I don't think there's a lot of good reasons to be optimistic. But if looking out the window means actually going to your front door and looking outside at your neighbors, that's different. Because whenever I come across actual people, in my neighborhood or on the road or at shows, they're not. It's not as bleak as I think it looks when you're looking through the filter of social media and the news. So I tend to, part of my treatment plan for depression and anxiety has been very specifically to not participate a lot in social media because it really has a tendency to bring on bad episodes for me. So I've been trying more often than not just to go ahead and be among actual people, and I think that's made a difference for me.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was actually just talking to my girlfriend today at lunch about the idea of myself just using Facebook as more of a tool for work rather than actually diving down the rabbit hole that you get sucked into,
Right.
It's one of those things where I think that we do have more in common than what we're told with each other.
Yeah, Facebook I think is way too easy to be divisive because you never get the next section. I mean, when you meet someone and you're talking to someone and you say I feel this way and they react with I feel that way. That's not all there is then. Then there's another thing where you say, well, sometimes I like this. And then they're like, oh, yeah, no, I'm like that. But with Facebook, that part of the interaction doesn't get to happen.
Yeah.
We never get there. We get, I'm this way and you're that way. So, screw you.
Yeah.
And that's as far as we get. So I don't, and I honestly, I'm sure I owe a lot to social media. I'm sure I owe a lot more to social media than I'm even willing to admit. But, with that in mind, I still think it's just like anything else. If you have too much of it, it's going to do you harm.
Yeah.
It's just even carrots. If you eat nothing but carrots all day, you're going to have a problem.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things. I mean, you mentioned that you've been open about depression, and I was going to say too is, at least in my perspective, you've come across before as a pretty private person, but at the Bristol shows, you seem to be opening up more. Was that a conscious decision of kind of reaching out more if you didn't feel good in your head, or?
Yeah, totally. It all kind of came about because, this last record is probably the most autobiographical record that I've done. All the songs are autobiographical because, you're writing them and there's just bits and pieces of you that get slid out onto the paper. But this record is a lot more that way than anything else was. And the depression has been, over the last 2 to 3 years, has deepened to the point where it's hard to hide it.
Yeah.
And what it looks like, what it looks like to people who maybe aren't used to it, or anybody, if they don't know you, and you're having an episode, a very depressed state, they're not automatically going to assume, it's clinical depression. That's what it is. They're going to say, oh, he's a road musician. He's probably on heroin. That's what he's probably doing. That's what they're going to think. And it just gets, you just start to feel like, what, I've been hiding this since I was 14, and I was I was hospitalized for depression when I was 14 for trying to commit suicide. And when I came out of the hospital, I remember, telling people, making up different things about maybe, I had like some surgery or something.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to tell people that I had mental health issues, because there was a lot of stigma around it. There still is. At some point, just recently, I'm like, I don't take drugs and almost never drink anymore. I'm trying to lead a healthy life, and part of that healthy life is going to need to be transparency. So I just started saying that, and I'm still a private person. It still makes me really uncomfortable to talk about it, but it's better, I think, to say something about it than to just kind of, feel like I'm burdened with it on my own.
Well, it's one of those things where as you get older, you kind of embrace it rather than feed into it.
Right. That's really true. I mean, it's I didn't grow out of it, so it's obviously part of myself now, and I as a 50-year-old person, I'm more likely to go ahead and accept all the different aspects of myself than I was when I was 14. That's for sure.
Do you see the beauty in that at all?
Oh, totally. Yeah. No, I prefer being 50 to being 14 any day of the week.
Well, even just yeah.
I know. I accepting myself as a totality, and knowing a little bit more about the world than I used to know. It's definitely more comfortable to feel like it's okay to accept and even kind of celebrate really, really flawed things about myself. That's just what makes us all the unique things that we are, and I maybe when you're 14 and you're dealing with a lot of peer pressure and a lot
when you compare yourself to people when you're a teenager
all the time.
Yeah.
And now that I'm 50, the person I compare myself to the most is myself.
Yeah.
And that's maybe a better way to go, because I'm learning a lot more now than I ever was before. And when I butt up against other people who are doing the same thing, I tend not to be. I'm not a competitive person, and I don't really even compare to people. I more find myself in an attitude of gratitude and appreciation of other people and their gifts, because I've been able to accept and appreciate the kind of the flawed characteristics that make me.
Well, and then just the idea of seeing humor in everyday life, even when things get tough on the road.
Oh yeah, it's essential. It's essential. I can't imagine not being able to laugh my way through some of this stuff, because
you'd go crazy if you didn't. Anybody.
You'd go completely crazy, and not only that, but I'm sure I'd be dead by now. I really would. I've had those kind of brushes with really, really bad suicidal thoughts that so far the best way to disarm myself of those thoughts is to find whatever it is in the situation that I can tease a little bit of funniness out of, and then I will diffuse the entire thing, and it'll be okay, and I'll survive, and it'll be fine. So.
Well, that's I'd say too is a lot of the songs, at least in my interpretation, come across as kind of like dark humor, almost like a self-deprecation kind of thing, where you have to not only accept what's in the mirror, but also see the joy and funniness sometimes in it to get through every day.
Oh, totally. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a weird it's a weird kind of tension that's created. I was asked in an interview about ego, and it's funny to think about. People, assume I'm not a very egotistical person, and I say there's a weird tension in the fact that I have very, very low self-esteem, and yet I'm a performing musician. I obviously have to have quite a bit of an ego to believe that anything I do is worthy of being done in front of anybody else. Yeah. So I kind of exist under this weird tension.
Well, even the courage to get up to the microphone too.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's essential to what I'm doing right now, though.
So you turned 50 this year. I couldn't find what your exact birthday was, so I don't know if you turned 50 or you're going to turn 50.
No, I turned 50 back in April.
Okay.
April 25th.